Hello and welcome to our March update for Judero. This month has been all about finishing up the second area of the game. Let's start by talking about some level design. This is the main hub of this area, a seaside town as you can see. Jack has been working on this town and just doing all sorts of specific objects to give this town a personality of its own. And as you can see, there's a marketplace that you can hang around in. Some NPCs are already in place with more coming later. Jack wrote a lot about this town's history and its struggles, and we will see actually some of those struggles in this video later on. As you can see, this town is also using the vertical space nicely as there are a lot of stairs going up and some bridges. As you can see, this town is quite a bit bigger than the first little village that we've done for the first area. And I think that could be even a trend going forward, as in some of the next areas we could see even bigger towns and cities. Now let's talk a bit more about some of the fire and water mechanics in this game, which will give me an excuse to show off a mini game that we made. So you come across this water spray, and when you interact with it, you actually start a score attack type of mini game. Lots of fire-based enemies attacking you as you need to defend yourself using water, which of course they do not like. One change I want to do for this mini game is actually you should be able to pick up those hearts by shooting water on them, so that it just becomes a bit easier, because as you can see I'm having a lot of trouble here and I'm about to die. So it just needs to be a bit easier. But moving on to talking about some enemy types here, as it will give me an excuse to also talk about the town a bit more. The first time you come into the town, you actually see that some men from Carlisle are causing a lot of trouble, which you need to help the townfolk for. You need to put out some fires and clean up some enemies. If you use the water spray, hopefully this won't be too much of a trouble, but sadly this is not the only problem this town is experiencing, as they are under attack from some sea creatures known as Fomorians. In order to deal with these guys, you need to find a way forward and find their king, which brings me to the third boss of this area, the Fomorian king. Now this boss fight is actually quite different from the other ones we worked on, so I'm really excited to see the reactions to this one. So the path opened up and we can enter some challenge rooms, and we immediately see the Fomorian king actually call his people from the sea. They are commanded by the king's singing, so they're actually doing kind of a dance to fight with you. In the meanwhile, there are also tentacles from the sea trying to hit you. When you figure out what to do, they go back to the sea, and there comes my favorite animation of this area. He's just really surprised that you were able to figure out the challenge. And then he gets into his position for the next room, basically, where you go and you fight with different patterns of enemies. These patterns will get more and more complicated as we go along here. I think when you hear the music for this fight as well, it will really come together for you. Which makes me think maybe for the next videos I could also show off some music, because we do work on very specific music for these encounters as well, which should be fun to listen to. And yet another disappointment for the king here as he moves to the next room. One thing that's been fun to work on is all these little cutscenes and all the camera changes. Because if you realize there are like 3 or 4 different camera angles that we're using here for each room, which I think is a very effective way of showing a lot of information to the player in a short amount of time. Now we can see that the number of Fomorians and their speed and just the craziness of the pattern is up to 11 here. But it's still more or less manageable, which brings me to the end of this video. There's a bit more to this boss fight to see, but I'd like to keep that a secret for now. So other than some little cleanups and polish here and there, we are done with the second area of the game, which I'm really happy about. I hope you enjoyed seeing the progression of this area in the last 3 months, and of course, thanks for watching.